idea for all this really came from a dream?
Yes, it did.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Sara Schick. Sarah's a blogger and Twitter witch. And basically a friend of ours, so. Sarah, welcome to the show. I got no bio whatsoever. I'm so...
yeah. It's your last minute. This is how the world's going right now.
Yep,
and
it's
fuck yeah, head forward.
That's right. Balls deep, baby.
That's
so
right.
actually let's open up with that, Sarah. Give us just a little insight into your world. I personally love following you on Twitter and suggest everyone should. You've got a fun page, and this whole haunted brick thing and hidden brick thing is intriguing. So,
Why, thank you. Yeah, I pretty much hang out on Twitter every day. That's where I actually got to meet the two of you. So I'm very thankful for all of my Twitter tribe.
You're welcome.
Yes. So definitely the basically thing that I've been doing and obsessing about is these bricks that are here in a lot of the old buildings from the 1800s and early 1900s in the great city of Vancouver, Washington. So I've been going around and checking out all of these haunted places and trying to figure out, something up with bricks, something up with the city, what the heck's going on. And decided to kind of put it out there in interwebs, and people seem to kind of dig it.
yeah, it's very cool. I wonder if my house has.
It just might. I guess pretty much any house in our general vicinity or in the North Portland area that has any kind of flower beds or anything from the 1960s or earlier is pretty much filled with these suckers.
Yeah, and mine's turn of the last century, so
Bet you got some.
I bet I may. I do have all kinds of paranormal activity, which Montana Jordan can confirm.
Yeah.
So,
And you're out in Camas, and the old part of the old Camas factory that they torn down there was made of hidden bricks. So there are lots of them around there.
yes, it's almost a given that I have some.
Mm-hmm.
Hidden bricks could be such a good euphemism for something. I just haven't figured it out yet.
I love it.
Yeah, they just it writes itself, right?
It totally does. Well, this is exciting. I'm glad to have you join us for our crazy show that we love, our little underground Bat Cave show. And let's just get right into it. Tell us about the world you grew up in as far as way back and the stuff that sticks out now. And this, of course, includes pop culture, cartoons and I, of course, if you grew up here, I know you had a relationship with nature, but that is always a great include in this kind of foundation work we do.
Gotcha. Yeah. I always did have a very strong relationship with nature. And as an adult now, I pretty much been a witch since the beginning. Just being 3 and 4 years old and outside pretending I had a mortar and pestle, smashing up berries and trying to catch newts and climb trees and do all of those sorts of things that made my mom absolutely crazy.
Ooh, all the signs.
Right. So that was no surprise. I didn't really grow up around here. I've been around here longer than I have been anywhere else. My dad was in the Navy and he was a construction superintendent. So we moved a lot. My parents were married for 11 years. We moved 14 times. So being constantly in a liminal state kind of just led me to pay attention to my surroundings and patterns and things like that. And I've always been genuinely curious about new places.
Where were you born?
I was born in Port Huron, Michigan.
Oh, I know it totally. I'm from the Midwest. I love it out
You're
there.
from everywhere.
I'm from the Midwest. And so, yes. And Sarah's from everywhere because she was a Navy kid.
Yes.
Ooh.
So all over. I even lived in Australia for 3 years as a little kid. So
yeah, see, that qualifies more than me. I was pretty much state bound. So
We'll have to explore that military background, see if you're part of any programs.
I know, right, Jerry?
well, your mind's
ding,
really
ding.
gonna blow when you find out that my maternal grandfather worked for OSS. Dun dun dun.
Oh, mhm.
Oh, you've definitely been in the programs.
Grandfather OSS.
Yeah, and it was so intense, I guess, up even until my grandma died, about 5 years before my grandma died, they would still come by and check on.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know what exactly he was into. I got, the redacted part of his records, but I know he was somewhere in Red China doing paratrooping.
Red China, that's racist.
That's what it says on the papers.
Oh, isn't that hilarious? It can say that on the official documents, and yet it's like a big deal if you say it out loud.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing a lot of that lately, digging with these old sources, tracing these bricks. They use a lot of the old antiquated language that should never be used in mixed company anymore.
Imagine the bricks that the Chinese made out of the 9/11 powder that was left from the two towers.
Oh, Lord.
Here we go.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so back to your childhood.
Yeah.
What kind of pop culture stuff did you enjoy as far as like cartoons, movies, board games?
I was always a super nerd, but I was super into horror. Always into spooky, scary. I remember my great grandmother showed me Children of the Corn when I was about 8, and it just blew my mind. And that was pretty much it. So anything creepy, spooky. I remember 1984 when Ghostbusters came out. I know we all like grown our eyes at it now. It was so. I was so
What? It's
obsessed
the
with it.
greatest movie ever.
Okay, thank you. My
Yeah,
best
it
friend
is a
that
goodie.
yeah, my best friend that lived next door, his name was David. This is another repeating pattern in my life. I always have Johns, Davids, and Marks show up in my life. So my first David, I married a David. The first David and I, we had our little ghost hunting club, and we used to literally run around the apartment complex and pretend we were chasing spooky and weird things, and just ride my bike down to the library and research Stonehenge and fairies and UFOs, and I've always just sort of been into.
Yeah, this is you're so right in there. I love it. This is like my pack of friends were the same way. We were always going to the abandoned houses at night, and doing, and at that time it was Sherman Hill in Des Moines, Iowa, and just getting in all kinds of trouble looking for things.
Yeah,
and then of course abandoned houses, floors going through. It's like.
Yeah, we found a mummified cat in one once. It was terrifying.
Oh, wow. See, my friend Amy Putney would have taken that home and made art.
Was it purposely mummified?
It didn't really look like it, but they did take it home and they named it Jim.
Adequate.
The right circumstances drive them out, and they appear mummified. It's amazing. Rats and all kinds of animals, if they've got, like, oftentimes down by heaters and stuff.
Yeah. I grew up in the part high school. I was in Boise, Idaho for high school. So we tended to, not really have a whole lot to do other than join bands, make bands, play music, and get in trouble. So we used to go up to Idaho City a lot and sit in the graveyards and stuff like that around there.
Yes.
Do grave rubbings. I used to have a whole collection of grave rubbings.
Ooh, girl, you can't say that now. You're not even
Wait,
supposed to
why
touch
not?
them at this point. I don't know. There's some, because of all the people that have actually damaged gravestones. Those terrible people.
What the fuck? I mean, they're sitting outside. What do they expect is going to happen to them?
Yeah, well, back in the 90s, there was a thing where, you get a big piece of paper and some
parchment. I've done it myself. I'm well aware.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So I haven't done it in years, but, it was a thing.
Haven't tipped cows in years either, but it's a thing.
Grave, the rubbings are beautiful. They're high art to me, and I love them. I just, everything these days is expensive.
Yeah. Well, I don't plan on being buried, but if I was going to be buried, I give full disclosure for any goths to come pose on my grave, take rubbings, plant catnip. I don't care.
Yes. Put X's on the stone. Yes.
If I'm alive, I'm going to plank on your gravestone.
Do it. Shit. Do it. Full permission.
Oh, it was a thing. My best girlfriend at the time, Julie Greenwald, she lost her virginity on a tombstone.
See, that's bucket list, right?
That's right.
Come on.
That's right. With the Blue Moon song. Under Blue Moon I Saw You. Echo and the Bunnymen. I can't remember.
Oh my god. Are you serious?
That's serious. For real. So I know. Isn't that
Legend.
great? Yeah,
Legend.
she was something else. She
Amazing.
is something else. Okay, so building this foundation, I love saying
Yeah.
that. Yeah, uh,
Oddly enough.
right? Did you have so you were into horror and sci-fi and all that stuff so early? Did you have any personal fears when, like, of the dark, of things under the bed when you were very, very young?
Never.
Yeah,
Never.
I love
I've had anxiety
that.
my entire life, but it was always about other people or real life incidents. My head
That's the
was
real
always the
horror.
safe space. Yeah.
Yes, that's the real horror in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
People don't understand that it's other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, and so then also back in this period, were you raised with any kind of organized religion in the background?
Yeah. Definitely my maternal line was very strong Catholic. My grandmother, especially my great grandmother, was actually in the vows to become a nun when my great grandfather moved her away, annoyed all the other nuns for sure.
That is romantic.
Yeah, I guess.
Seriously, I think
Yeah.
that's very romantic.
Yeah, so he saved her from the nunnery or whatever.
Yeah,
So
like the hardcore nunnery. Yeah.
yeah. So, but they were both very devout. Both of them would go to mass every day still when they were physically able and very devout in that way. I was raised Catholic. My father was an atheist, so my father did not participate at all with any of the religious stuff that was going on, but that was kind of a reflection as to what it was like to grow up with my two parents. They were pretty much constantly on opposite sides of flux anyhow. So it was kind of a confusing way to grow up, but it was liberating in a little bit way because I could go back and forth kind of from reality way.
Yeah, I think ultimately that creates a more open-minded environment since you have these, opposing facts right there.
Yeah, totally.
That's a good thing. And so also back here in the early days, do you recall your relationship with the dream world, with the dreamscape?
Absolutely.
Lay it on us.
Well, the first one that I actually remember, and it's probably because it was so traumatic and it just kept repeating, is I kept having I was a sleepwalker when I was a kid. I would literally get up, walk around, eyes would be open, would have full conversations, but they could tell I was not 100% there. I would be there, but not there. So they would usually just say, "Oh, you're asleep. Turn around, go back to bed." And I would just say, "Okay, good night," and go. Sometimes I would wake up in the backyard. Sometimes I'd wake up on the porch swing. It just sort of depended. So I've always had this weird relationship with sleep. Even now, I'm a notorious insomniac. That's why I'm on Twitter all the time. I'm up at all hours of the night randomly, right? But I remember when I was really little having this repeated night terror that we were going to Hawaii for my father's work, I'm sure. And I had this terror that Big Bird was going to come and throw me inside of a volcano. And I would just dream of that again and again and again and again and again. And I had this terror and fear of Big Bird for like 2 years for no reason.
I feared Big Bird too, but I didn't have like that.
That's so weird.
Big Bird was my least favorite. I'm like, what the hell is going on with
I
Big
hated
Bird?
everything on Sesame Street. Except
I was
Yeah.
not a Sesame Street
Oscar,
lover.
though. Oscar and Slimy were
Oscar
awesome.
was cool, and I had this.
Oscar's the best.
This
And the Count.
And the Count, yes.
I had this.
Kiss me once and kiss me twice and kiss
Me
once
3
again.
times.
Yeah.
I had this thing about Grover.
Yeah, what about him?
I don't know. I just was like fascinated by that character. And to the point where I actually had business cards printed with just it said Grover on them, and I had a picture of him.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's hilarious. I still suck my thumb for audio perverts out there. Anyway, so I'm proud. And the reason I still do is a rebel gene. Everyone told me not to, and they tried every which way to stop me with cigarettes, hot sauce, everything. And I maintained
How are
that.
cigarettes better than sucking your thumb?
The cigarette ashes. Like, I don't know.
Oh, got it. Okay. I was like, what? Sorry.
No, they weren't
Continue.
shoving cigarettes. Girl,
Continue.
fuck up and smoke. No. And so, but I named my binky, which was just a old pillowcase that had knots in it, Grover, and I had it into my 20s. And it was everyone that knows me, knew Grover because I'd whip it out of my purse and I'd swing it around. I always have my thumb in my mouth. There was something strange about Grover. And
Huh.
that's my add-on to this.
Huh. Well, you know who never, it's not Sesame Street, but you know who always freaked me out was freaking Grimace.
Yes.
What's
Oh,
up with him?
girl, I forgot about Grimace.
Like him. I think Gritty needs to take down Grimace in a death match.
Oh, yes.
See, I always associate Grimace with McDonald's shakes. I don't know why.
He's creepy. He's just, what is it? Ugh.
He's
so
a Grimace.
He's like a haunted eggplant or some shit. I don't even know.
I know, it's so weird.
He's like the proto eggplant emoji.
Oh, there it is.
Gee. See, this is that kind of pop culture stuff I'm always trying to get at when I ask a question. This is just fun, and it highlights the fact that some of us did experience this stuff. A lot of people just never they wash over it, but this stuff's important, I think.
And Rev Chain in chat brought up Hamburglar, who I have to agree was pretty creepy. He's like the only human.
That was the McDonald's stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he's like a tickler. Look at him. He's like going to violate you.
No.
And he's probably French, too.
He's very Archon, right? Very Archon.
Oh.
Definitely with that mask.
There was this mime that followed me around Seattle in like 1995. He kind of reminds me of that guy.
For the mime out there that was doing his work in
Yeah.
1995, you
half
suck.
an hour wandering around downtown, like, leave me alone. It's terrifying.
Oh man, I love that. I don't necessarily love, but I find it so interesting that Big Bird was a reoccurring thing, though.
Yeah.
So Jerry, your keypad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
Crazy wild. Jerry behind the scenes.
I'm interacting with the chat.
I know.
Well, we're glad because I'm not looking at chat because my AD kick in and I'll be like, oh, what'd you say?
Oh,
huh?
girl, me too. Plus,
None of your friends are there, so don't worry about
Losers.
Jerry's our back page man.
Right.
And then he comes forward. Anyway, okay, so
like
I know he's very pimpin' Jerry. Pimpin' Jerry.
Just call me Gator.
Oh, dude. This show is off the hook already. I love it. Okay, so I was expecting this from you, Sarah, though. You're fun. You're very fun. And your Twitter, just not even hearing you or knowing you in person, your Twitter page really just shows you're fun.
Well, I appreciate that. Life's kind of a crap show, so you have to make it fun, right?
Especially right now. And that's what when I put that out, it was like, let's just not focus on all this other crazy stuff and go here.
Yes.
For a couple hours. So, all right. So back in this early period, what was the dreamscape like? This is just the mechanics, like black and white, smell, touch, color?
Always color. I'm always look now as an adult. I always look like I did when I was 17 with my long red hair, which kind of pisses me off because I don't want to have long hair anymore on the astral, but there it is.
I saw this picture you posted not that long ago. Girl, smoking hot. That was your natural hair, right? Right?
No, my natural hair is now.
Okay, so it was red hair that was dyed?
Correct, and straightened, tortured every day.
Oh, geez, but it was worth it. I mean, that photo was like, look at that hair. The hair especially was like on point for me. It was giving me Shirley Manson.
Thank you. That's
not
the first time I heard that. Yeah.
You in general. I mean, just all lanky and modelly. I was like, whoa.
Those were the days, the 90s.
The 90s were fantastic.
Yeah, they really were. Thank God we didn't have social media, man.
I know they were. Everyone has it so easy now with an instant camera everywhere in their phone and film. Imagine, Sarah. You know?
Oh my God. We'd probably be in cells next to each other on the cell block.
Seriously. Okay, so with that, and then also early on, were you able to? What was the extent of like your lucidity in dreams? Was it just dreamscape? did you get lucid, out of body stuff back
Right.
early?
Not super early. I had precognitive dreams pretty early, which I hated and freaked me out big time. I dream, and it was always I dreamed about my brother's suicide before it happened. I dreamed about my parents' divorce before it happened. I dreamed about a car accident before it happened, all before like the age of 15.
Can we pump the brake on those? So are you all right
Yeah,
speaking of these?
sure, yeah.
Pump the
Can
brakes.
you can you well this is the really juicy stuff. So on these, well, first of all, the precog stuff is, but furthermore, in how it played out, can you give us some symbols or the dream images of these, at least one of them, before they played out? This is stuff that really people that chime in here and listen in and come to us really love to hear.
Yeah. It just would happen. I would just wake up and I would know. I knew for a year before my dad left that he was going to leave. And at the time we were living in Detroit, and I had a wonderful teacher who now I recognize was a gay male, very super sweet, empathetic man. And I confided in him, my parents are going to divorce, my dad's going to leave. And I was, inconsolable because my dad was my protector and the parent who understood me, I thought. And he went to my mother out of concern. Oh, she's devastated about the divorce. What divorce? And then I was in trouble for lying. And I was actually physically punished for lying. So I tried very, very hard not to know things or not to dream things. And that's part of probably the reason that I had such a hard time falling asleep when I was a kid, because I was afraid of what I was going to accidentally find out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this is something I hear often and have personally experienced is for us that precog stuff, people don't want to hear this stuff, and it then we have to deal with it in ways we deal with it and bottle it up in different ways, especially when it's heavy content like that on a person.
Right.
So on the desk, how was is there a prevailing symbol that's moved through in the precog that where you would see them that you can connect the dot here? Or were they all did you see them all differently?
They all were sort of seen differently. The death of my half brother was, I dreamed that I got a phone call. And at the time my parents were newly divorced. So my dad was up in Canada working and I was still in Idaho with my mom. And the night before it happened, I dreamed that we got a phone call and it was that Brooks was dead. And the next day, my other brother called looking for my father, not realizing that he was no longer there. And my mother picked up the phone, and said, "Sorry, John's not here." And I guess at the exact same time that he was telling her, I was telling her, "He's dead, isn't he?" And she was, super freaked out again. And so it was always just like it was almost like a time slip for me. It's like I could almost see forward just a little bit, just enough to maybe prepare me for whatever kind of bomb was going to happen. And maybe it was because my house was so volatile that I needed that extra time. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
You were just remote viewing the future.
I guess, yeah. But ask me to do it or, figure out, how to do it on the astral on purpose. I can't do it. You know
That's
what I
the
mean?
That
thing.
astral's
Yeah.
playing just tricky plays.
Well, that's the thing about the precog stuff in general is remote viewing is a whole different from my experience, the precog, it's actually a whole different experience.
And that's
And
always super interesting because I've tried some remote viewing and I either nail it or do
yeah,
not get anything.
yeah, and yet you have this amazing precog stuff that nails it. That's, there it is. And as and there's full imagery, there's full emotion. I think that's another factor in it too, is the emotional aspect. What do you think about that?
I'm sure, the fact that somewhere along the timeline, there's something, the fissure, happens and trickles backwards, maybe.
And so you said your brother, your mother, and your father have all moved on?
No, my mother is still around. We're not in contact currently.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I usually am good on those notes, but
Yeah, no.
I got so excited about the fact that you precog this stuff that I
I don't really talk about it. So the fact that I'm actually talking about it, Niche, says a lot, okay?
I really thank you. I think more people need to hear this stuff, and it's hard for some people to even hear. But these are, this is important, especially in these times we're in, because we I believe we go on. So
I do
have
too.
have you encountered them in the dreamscape since, or has your relationship in some way continued on?
Yes, I dream about my father at least 2 to 3 times a month. I dream about my maternal grandmother about once a month, and they're always what I call the air.
Oh wow, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. The best way I could describe it is I'm not sure, if it's like a 767 or one of those gigantic, think of the biggest jumbo jet, that you would take, from America to Australia or Japan or somewhere. I'm talking about where they have two big aisles and
Like the big Concords and
right,
all that?
like these
Yeah.
huge, yeah. It's always that, and it's always a white plane, and the seats are blue, and there's always I walk out of it's odd because I walk out of where the tail of the plane would be. Like there's a door. Of course, there's no door 'cause it's a plane. And I start walking down one of the hallways, and whoever I'm going to meet, usually my father, sometimes his grandmother, is there on the other side, down at the other side of the hallway. And we smile at each other and we meet. We either hold hands or we sit down in the seats and hold hands. Sometimes we look out the window and we have conversations, but we don't speak and our lips never move.
This is amazing. And what is the emotional content for you when you encounter these now?
Um, Sometimes it's usually, it just depends. Usually it's when I've been thinking about him a lot or feeling disconnected or feeling, sort of like an orphan, or I feel like they'll just come through and sort of ancestors kind of have my back and help me feel a sense of connection and connectivity with the world when I'm having a hard.
When, like, for example, when your papa first passed, when you first encountered him in the dream space, what was that? Do you recall it?
Yeah, he looked like he did when I was a kid. My dad was 43 when I was born. I was a surprise. And
Oh, wait. They were
so,
having fun.
well, my mom was quite a bit younger, so he kind of robbed the cradle for real. And
That's the old school. I still love that, especially when women do it.
right, for sure. Get it, ladies.
Watch out, all you young boys.
So whenever I meet up with him, he always is like the late 1970s, early 1980s look to him. Like, he's got the sideburns and his full, Burt Reynolds mustache and his cowboy boots on. He doesn't look, old and ill and frail like he did before he passed. I took care of him before he passed as well. Had a dementia. So it's kind of a dramatic sort of outgoing for him, unfortunately, too. A long, slow goodbye. So he's always very restored. And one thing that I really love that he had glorious dimples. And in real life, if anybody else was around, he would rarely smile, show his dimples. He always gives me the dimple.
Oh wow. That's so significant. And it drives home that thing that was special in life that you got to see more so than others, and it's there as a continuance.
Yeah, it's like the little nugget.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So was it when you first encountered him, how were you able to Yeah, like for example, and I know everyone's heard this, but when I first saw my mama, I got too emotional and it ended. So,
Mm,
and then we had to work up to our relationship now because I was so emotional.
right. It took a little while. Immediately after he passed, a phenomenon started to happen where he started to send me hummingbirds. Literally 2 minutes after he passed, I'd left the facility where he was and came home to try to get a little bit of work done. I was kind of been on hospice and we knew it was kind of coming. And I came and I sat down at my desk and opened the computer up and started to do some work. And I got the call from the care home that, sorry, about 2 minutes ago, your dad just passed. And I hung up the phone and I immediately had a sense of relief because he'd been so ill for so long. And then I started to cry and feel guilty about it. And immediately this hummingbird just came up to the window out of nowhere and was literally like banging itself against the window. And the reason that was significant for me is my dad and I had always, when he was younger and I was a kid, we had a North American Guide to Birds, and we would take cameras and binoculars and go out and look for birds and take pictures of birds. So I immediately got the first hummingbird and I was like, yeah, okay, that could just be a cool coincidence, whatever. And then the next day, I got a second hummingbird. And on my birthday, our birthdays were 3 days apart. That first birthday, that September, I had a hummingbird outside the window of the Mexican restaurant as I was eating my birthday dinner, thinking, gosh, I wish dad was here with me. So the birds started first. I haven't really had any birds lately since we moved into the astral.
It's because birds aren't real.
We all know that from Twitter.
Exactly.
It's so significant because one of the symbols that a lot, we don't in particular do dream interpretation here because that stuff really, I think, is so personal and individual. And
Right.
you have to have a relationship with people and understand
We fucking charge for it.
but their foundation and their set of personal symbols. Everyone's different, and so this homogenizing of symbols is disservice. I But hummingbird is stunningly. It's a stunning symbol that comes along with these particular situations, and you see it across a lot of cultures where they're around. So, that of course gave me my synchronicity bell right
Mm-hmm.
away. That is, and it's such a fantastic symbol. Uh, I love that. That is very magical, Sarah. And of course, just this far into talking with you, I wouldn't expect any less. So, with lucidity in dreams, so the precog information and experiences is one thing, and it can come in a matter of different layers of being lucid. And get to it. We can even get to an active imagination, conscious,
Mhm.
or alleged conscious. What do you? What's your experience with lucid dreaming, or even like the full out of body astral experience?
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, the first time that I ever even learned of such a thing was when I was in eighth grade. I went to a friend's house and she had an older brother that was super awesome. Unfortunately, we lost him to HIV in the 90s, but he was the first official weirdo that I ever met. He dressed in drag. He had a bunch of books about Wicca. He had Chris, you know what I mean? Like he was my first weirdo, and he loved, like, his sister didn't care about any of that stuff, but I was like, yes. And again, his name was Matt because we have these, repeating names throughout my life. Well, Matt had one of the things he was into was there was this weirdo religion, and sorry if anybody by saying weirdo, but it was called Eckankar, and it was really popular like in the 90s, and one of their big things was astral travel and learn how to astral travel. And I remember he gave me this big thick Eckankar book, and I was just fascinated, like, wait a minute, you could do this. And it didn't even seem like it was even possible. It seemed like complete science fiction to me, you know what I mean? And then I tried it and
Yes.
tried it and tried it and tried it and tried it and tried it, and just like anything, when you try to force it too hard, nothing's going to happen, right? Well, it happened accidentally some years later. And I didn't even realize what happened at the time. But in the middle, I just remember having this terrible dream and going, this is awful. This is terrible. And having the thought of, well, it's a good thing you're just dreaming then, huh? And then instantly, like the switch, and I was awake.
And at that point, what was it like?
I just remember my heart racing. And because I had that sort of, it felt literally like I'd just been snapped back inside my body. It wasn't a normal sort of wake up from a dream. It felt like a jolt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not just, oh, I'm awake suddenly. It was different.
Yeah, it is different. And so with that, do you get to this often as we've moved just into your current life?
No. No. I've tried, and again, anytime that I try to do it, it's always been accidental.
Yeah, I think I hear that a lot. And I've got to say, and I was just talking on Michael Deacon's program a couple days ago about how that is the same for me. I still one would think I'd have like full control of all this, and I still don't. And I admire and I bow to those that just pop, close their eyes and presto. Like
Yeah. It's mind
just
blowing.
unbelievable to me. Yeah, it is mind blowing. But I believe these accounts for sure, 100%. I'm not able to do that. I can sometimes at will, but it's really
Yeah.
so. That's why every time is actually really feels special to me, even now, and surprising sometimes. Actually, utterly surprising sometimes, where it's like, oh, I'm awake, and then I get so excited about it.
Yeah. And then you like try, the anxiety kicks in. Okay, hang in there. Try not to lose it. Try not to
I
lose it. And then it's
know.
gone. You're like, damn it.
It's like an orgasm. Keep going, keep going. I don't want it to end. And
Oh, that's perfect.
it is just so similar. It's great though. So on the full astral projection, where you are able to just turn around and see your body, or there is a difference in feeling here. Lucidity is well, I think that's the highest lucidity. The language I want is astral projection highest. And have you experienced that?
Yeah. I usually see myself,
Oh, do tell.
but I'm always 17.
Yeah, well, of course.
And everybody else can be the same age and everything's the same. But the icon of me is what I have. Don't like.
Darling, this is the power, right? This is exactly what I'm saying. We are our own architects, and we should be able to present our visage in the way we want. That's the whole point.
I love it.
So, so it's omniscient, like you're outside of yourself, or do you get behind the eyes?
I'm like, I can see the back of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm walking around. I'm like, it's like a video game and I'm the icon.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's it. And how often is that? I know that you already said with the lucidity and all that, it happens sporadically, but is there any how common is it?
I'd say about 50% of the time when I dream is like that.
Oh, nice. That's excellent. And so you said earlier you've always been an insomniac. Hello, let's unite. I was always such a night owl, and still still could be an issue, but less so these days. Do you think that has any bearing on how you experience? And I'm not going to the dream, I'm going to your dayside life.
Okay.
Is there, because of the insomnia, do you ever experience your dayside life in almost like a dreamscape?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I believe dissociation is the word for it. Yeah. this and more so much now, of course, everybody's kind of feeling that whole, dissociative fugue state right now. But especially in the last, I'd say 4 years, it seems like there's just a sense of unreality to absolutely everything.
I agree. And there's so much woo around that too, as to why. I mean, and that's what's so juicy. Is all the ideas from 2012, We're All Dead, to all kinds
I
of.
love that one.
Oh, me too. I love SMQ. Or SQM. I think it's SMQ. Right?
Smokey?
Yes.
SMQ.
So yeah, that's where I'm wanting to also ruminate here for a minute, is the idea of the outer world. How do you so right now, and of course right now is a great example because of how crazy everything is. Everything is absolutely as crazy as it could be. And in a dream, that's when we start saying, whoa, this is so crazy, I must be dreaming. Like your logical
Right.
mind even says this shit is crazy.
Right.
So where we are in the collective right now, with all the layers of the absurd, what's your take on, and I'm looking for the esoteric side of this and not like the political side. What's your take? Are we all dreaming right now? What is going on in our collective reality making this all seem so everything's surreal and not there, and yet there?
Yeah, why is reality breaking down? Please tell us.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's another way to put it.
Well, I don't know the why, but I have to admit, and I was talking to some people in the group chat on the old Twitter deck today about this, how it feels sort of like, for those of us that have been, I don't know, into sort of 14 sort of thinking liminal spaces, it seems like kind of the rest of the world seems to be catching up kind of our vibe, where we've all been saying nothing is real, everything's a simulation, this timeline's terrible, and joking about it, all this, like all of a sudden it feels like kind of the energy of everybody has reached that fever point, for all to the point of society's broken down, capitalism's failing. You know what I mean? You can look at this a number of ways, but it's almost like a control alt delete the entire world right now. 100%.
I love you using that language, by the way. It's so perfect. Wh- so leading up to where we are right now, were you having so say in the last, I'd say at least starting 2013, and then let's just move it to 2015 actually. Have you had any precog dreams about this period? And if you had them earlier, throw those in. But this period, has this been in your precog cauldron at all?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm actually surprised to hear that, Sarah.
Yeah. I've been dreaming about bricks and dead nuns, okay?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, and the dead nuns thing is actually a
Yeah.
bit of chilling.
It's the only kind of good nun.
Jerry.
Oh,
Lord.
there we go.
Ba-boom boom. And so that's interesting with because this stuff's so theater of the absurd that I would, it's like it seems like it should have permeated into everyone's dreamscape.
Right.
But moving from that, because this was so provocative, I want to hear about your dreams of brick and nun. Can you give us some of those?
Sure. Well, the most recent one that I had the other day is, apparently I'm supposed to be writing a book about, and I don't really like that message either, because that stresses me out a lot. 'Cause I don't want to write a book about anybody.
Oh, I think this is great already. Seriously.
So,
I'll be your ghostwriter if you want.
right on. You can throw in the dead nun jokes. I'm sure they'd appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and nice pun, Jerry. Good.
But yeah, but one of the things, like I mentioned, that I've been complaining about is, and railing about on my blog as well, is there's such a myth around this woman, Mother Joseph, that was the, head Mother Superior of these nuns that built Vancouver and founded this brick company that made all these bricks that are making up these haunted buildings. And there's so much myth surrounding her. You that the truth of her is, like all of us, incredibly complicated. And until I really started digging into her and reading her actual letters and seeing she had like the craziest case of imposter syndrome known to man, did she even become remotely relatable to me. So it's I feel like the media that's out there about her is conflicting, and in a way is sort of surrounded by so much religious dogma and old ways of thinking. Some of the stuff that she did was really witchy, like for real. Like there was a flood that was happening, and she decided she was going to go get a piece of Douglas fir and carve a statue of Saint Joseph and put it down by the river and said, "You will go no further." And guess what happened? It went no further.
Oh, I've seen those photos of that flood too.
Yeah. So
Right,
there
wasn't
was
that, and that was like in what period was that?
Yeah, that was in the like 1890s
Yeah.
that happened. Yeah. And the only thing she fully admitted, she didn't want to be put in charge. She burst into tears when she was put in charge. She didn't understand why. She was terrified. She basically like faked it and did all of these amazing things, and truthfully was a bitch. Like people didn't like her. They tried to get her removed at some point. She wasn't easy to deal with, but she was extremely complicated unless you were one of her orphans. You know what I mean? She would move hell or high water for those kids that she cared about. So I feel like buried under all the religious dogma and the white nationalism, and because they came out here because of all the Native Americans that were abandoning their orphans around here, I think there's really a disservice to her kind of that needs to be dug out and examined, and maybe look at her from a modern lens and see her maybe as a Renaissance woman, because she was so complicated in so many ways.
Yeah, I love this. And this is one of those things of how I experienced the muse speaking it through dreams, and stories that want to come forward, especially from those that were at one point living. This is just a great example. And yes, this book needs to be written, and what perfect times for it.
Well, if I end up going on quarantine, I guess I know what I'm doing.
Well, yes. It could happen.
Woo!
It could happen. Yeah, that was a very witchy thing for her to do, especially in that time. I find in my love of nuns that go way back in Hildegard von Bingen and all those, we didn't have a lot of options as women for a long time. And
Right.
one of the ways, if you wanted to be educated, was to get into the nunnery so you could learn to read and all that and get into that. And I suspect there are a lot of women that did it just for that kind of freedom.
Absolutely. And I think she was absolutely one of those as well. But she did have quite a religious experience. She was actually running around with French revolutionaries with her older brother, like training people to fight, in the war before she became a nun. Like she was a badass. She she did everything her dad did, and they figured out in a hurry, she wasn't going to be a prairie wife on the Wild West. She had to go and find something to do with her time, and the nunnery was the way that she could get that done.
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully so. Because it saved a lot of women terrible experience worse. Like I think many of them felt actually blessed, to ride that wave of religionism.
Yeah. Her
That
entire life, I mean, she named everything after Providence. She truly believed everything was God's divine providence guiding her.
I have a real close relationship with the meaning of that word as well. And I'm
Mm,
a believer in free will and all that. I believe in intent and fate. There are just some things
mm,
we are intent around these pillars of fate, providence or providence. And yeah, I feel that, and especially hearing that from a nun on her order, that's something. There's something to it.
right. The synchronicities involved.
So when you speak of dreaming of brick, how does that all play in?
When I was tracing the location of these bricks around town, I would just keep dreaming about walking around looking for bricks and just sort of keep looking, keep digging, keep looking. And I would just dream of me wandering around the city or being back at the Providence Academy, which I knew I'd been there before I'd ever been there before. It was one of those weird sort of things when I got up there in the attic. I never wanted to leave. So that was another weird sort of synchronicity that happened.
Do you interact with them at all once you find them?
The bricks?
Yeah.
100%. Are you kidding me?
So this is just making me think that you have some kind of task, like clearing energy from these things.
Think so?
Yeah, it's kind of just popped in my head, so.
Huh. Well, it's interesting because I've been doing these sort of experiments with them because let me think. I think I have 5 of them in my house right now. I had to think because I've given a couple of them away to a couple people. But I've got one that I've got some sigils on, some magic work. Got one, what I call the OG brick, one I initially found in the antique store that got me going on this sort of ride by my front door. The bricks, when they're sort of outside of the buildings, don't seem that reactive. I mean, they seem to have an energy to them, but they didn't like haunt my house or anything. Nothing weird has happened. It seems like the bricks have to be in the location where they were initially laid.
Yeah, like the
And
energy's tied to the ground and it
yeah,
manifests through the brick. Yeah, totally get
yeah.
that.
Like I think the clay that's part of the bricks themselves is definitely part of it, just because of the way. I mean, they were very much ritually made. I mean, they're even stamped with the guy's name on it,
They're
right?
made by masons. Come on.
Literally. So the bricks themselves, and then magnified with that energy. And if you think about the fact that she was so obsessed with the perfection of these bricks and the perfection of these buildings were built literally in her mind to serve God's divine providence and
Mm-hmm.
God's purpose. Like, how can that not have some sort of energy left over?
Yeah, no, it's real interesting. And I want to give a shout out to your friend who's in chat, Ann Robinson, who literally got a shirt today with the word Providence written on it. So, synchro
Amazing.
bell for her.
Amazing.
The synchronicities are the thing. Can you tell us a little bit about how these bricks were made? I'm just mesmerized by this whole.
Yeah. Well, Mother Joseph, her father was a carriage maker in Montreal and taught her how to carve, learn which trees were good for which types of wood, all of these sorts of things. And she was presented to the nunnery and said, she'll make a great superior. She can do everything I can do and can do everything her mother can do. And one of the things that she picked up from being on, construction sites from him was how to make bricks. So she went down to Hayden Island in the docks, where the Hidden family, there were a couple of brothers that were out here. They came out here to work at the docks, and she plucked them off the docks and taught them how to make bricks. And they founded the Hidden Brick family factory, excuse me, the Hidden Brick Factory in 1871, specifically to make these bricks that make up the Providence Academy, which it was at the time the largest building north of San Francisco back when it was built. It was a really big deal. And that was her orphanage and chapel and sort of Mother Joseph's sort of crown jewel in life's work, and the building that is still standing here in downtown Vancouver. So they would they would dig out the clay out of these clay pits. And it was made out of alluvial silt, which is really interesting from the Pliocene era. So, when we think about the fossils that were around that sort of time, kind of early hominid stuff, maybe there's something actually in the dirt, right?
If those stories are true.
Right? Who knows? Hard to say. So they get this and they would, load it up in these wooden brick molds and literally smash it down with their hands and their arms, so all of their literal energy from their bodies was put into this process to hand mold all of the bricks. And then they're churned, to make sure they dry evenly. They're turned, and then there's like a fire pit, and they're baked around them and again turned. And Mother Joseph looked at every single brick, and if it wasn't baked evenly and the color wasn't right and it wasn't symmetrical, like, they were rejected. And it's funny because around town, you can tell the difference between the ones that, the Hidden's used for other stuff versus the ones that are on Mother Joseph's buildings are all perfect. So she was super obsessed with how perfect these bricks had to be. And she actually taught them herself how to make them. So that's kind of how the bricks started.
That's fascinating, and it's just ha- I didn't know. So there are so many things here I didn't know. I didn't know Hidden was actually the family name,
Indeed.
and I've been finding through your Twitter and your blog, you know, although I just discovered your blog, you know, to be honest, it's been your Twitter that keeps me entertained and going. Uh, but I didn't know that that was the name, and I've been finding that on bricks just so wonderfully provocative it's so predominant and it's sexy.
Right. It's almost like the name. It's like, well, for lack of a better word, it's like a sigil.
It's completely that way, and that's, you know, that's why it seems sexy to me. I mean, it's hidden is the name, and you know,
Right.
and it's a cult. There's so much depth to that, and it's interesting to now know that that was the family name.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
this was your encounter was finding, you know, what I just you find a brick, you encounter this brick, and then did you start having the dreams? What became, how did you become this deep into this
Right.
experience?
Well, being a practicing witch, one of the tools I use for protection around my front door is red brick dust, which is an old hoodoo thing. It goes back to red being, the color of the ancestors and protective, and you consecrate your brick and, grind down your dust and you make a line and supposedly nothing, can enter the house. There's other things you can do with brick dust too, but that's primarily what I use brick dust for. So, and I'm always out in the thrift stores and the antique stores just looking for weird stuff. And in one of the antique stores downtown on Main Street, Old Glory, I don't know if it's in there, but wonderful.
It is. I
Yeah.
have many things from it.
Me too. So I'm in Old Glory and there's this brick, right? And it's just this red brick and it says 1871. And on the tag, it's $10. And on the tag, it's 1871 hidden brick. Well, awesome. I need it. That's $10 for an old ass brick. The older the brick, the better they are, supposedly. You know what I mean? So awesome. Bought it, gonna take it home, grind it up, whatever. Got home, put a little rum on it, got ready to consecrate it, and just heard in my head, "Don't that damn brick." And I was like, "Huh? Why don't I want to?" And this wouldn't have been the first brick that I smashed up. You know what I mean? This would have been just usual weirdo behavior. But for some reason, I didn't want to mess with this 1870 brick. Like, what is it? Like, I'd seen them around town, but I came from the Portland side. I lived on 25th and Weidler over here. I got married 'cause my husband had kids, and the schools were so much better over. So before this whole experience, I never even connected with it. I thought that was crappy side of the river. So I just never had paid attention. So I feel like I needed to find that brick to sort of connect me over here, and finding out Vancouver was pretty interesting, turns out.
I love downtown. I love old Vancouver.
Yeah,
And so it's good to, and I think that's a distinction to make too, because a lot of people think it's just, uh, I don't know,
strip
you know,
malls
strip
and
mall
yeah,
town. Yeah.
yeah,
Until they get into old Vancouver, downtown is fantastic. And then when you discover that there's another Vancouver, it's really fantastic.
absolutely.
So then when did you start? So from this experience, when did they start popping up in the dream?
Started after I really started chasing these bricks, because once I was like, okay, what is this hidden crap? Like, they're all over town. I'd eaten at Hidden House in town before, which is a great place to eat. So I knew there was a family named Hidden, and I'd seen these bricks stamped Hidden, when I'd been out and about. So I just did a Google and found out, oh, it's a history thing. Well, I'm into history, so I started digging into it and decided I was going to go. Looking at these locations of where these bricks, the ones that are still standing, it dawned on me that most of these places were known locally as being haunted. And I thought, well, okay, yeah, they're really old buildings, but maybe there's something else going on here. The fact that these are all made out of, the same kind of bricks, and kind of going with the stone tape theory and whatnot, thinking maybe the bricks were contributing. So I decided, well, let's just go have lunch at Hidden House and see what happens. And it was pretty much after I started going around and taking pictures of bricks. And another weird thing I started to do to amuse myself was try to take pictures of all the different years on, because they're stamped different years. So anytime I see a different year, one that I don't have, it's like, I don't know, I'm not making trading cards, or I don't know what I'm
It's like a baseball card. Yeah, totally.
doing. Ooh, here's a 1972. Like, so ever since that started happening, I had a friend at the time too mentioned to me, she's like, you ever tried talking to the city? And I'm like, what? She's like, just like trying to talk to the city. Ever just walked around and try to connect with the city? You could do that. And I was like, really? Huh. I just never really thought about it. So I was thinking about that when I fell asleep. And that night was the night that I started dreaming about the bricks, me walking around looking for the bricks and like pictures of my feet walking on the path of bricks. And until I got to the Providence Academy later, I didn't realize that's where the path was that I kept dreaming.
Wow, that gave me the chills, actually. That's really phenomenal.
What is that building today? Is that
It's mixed use. They have about 60 different offices in there, mainly like counseling offices, accounting firms, things like that. They also have a ballroom you can rent. You can rent out the chapel for weddings. They're renovating the building one piece at a time, and they're also in the middle of a regentrification. They tore down an old Mexican restaurant that was on the corner there and are building some apartments using the old bricks from the old building.
so?
Guess who wants to live there?
You do.
Of course.
So it's not being used as a Masonic temple.
No.
Okay.
There is a chapel inside there, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that chapel is haunted.
Well, this guy, Lowell Hidden, the brick company founder, his middle name is Mason.
Yeah. And they did build a
Oh,
Masonic
wow.
temple here in town. It is torn down, unfortunately, but they were Masons, correct?
Yeah. No, it's all good. I have no problem with Masons.
Yeah.
I
They
just
were
find
also Methodists, interestingly enough, and teetotalers.
good for them.
Yeah, a lot. That's what I tell everyone. I come from a very long line of Masons and Eastern Stars and Oddfellows, and so many, there's just so much crazy hype around all of it, and so many really just not not what people think.
Yeah.
It's interesting. My house was built by a Mason here, and so all the geometry in here is really great. A lot of eights, and then the Masonic temple here is just down. So, and that's all brick. I need to go look at it. It's
I need
not.
to go look at it too.
I know it's not. You know what? I don't know how old the building is. It appears to not be that old. It's not like super fancy like they can be, but it was built for that purpose. It's just more low. It's more it's just not fancy. It's not fancy in any way. But now I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
So how long were they building hidden bricks?
Well, the handmade bricks, which are the ones that I call really juicy, were made until 1905. In 1905, they went to what they call a wire cut method, where instead of smashing it down and actually hand moving the mold, they had this big machine that would take pieces of wire and it would leave marks on the back of the bricks. There's only one building that's still standing that's made out of those wire cut bricks that is known to be haunted, and that is what used to be the Vancouver Public Library. It's now the Clark County Historical Museum. It is made of hidden bricks, and the Hiddens gave the library to the city. Is built on top of an old hidden clay pit as well. So of course that place is going to be lit up with activity because it's pretty much ground central for brick making headquarters. That's where the clay for the Providence Academy was literally dug out of the ground.
Did you know this much about brick making before this journey?
I knew nothing about brick making before this journey.
Because it's astounding. I love all this. And of course the handmade bricks are going to be the actual psychic juicy.
Right.
Is it possible? So I'm wondering, with all this, do you think it's possible that you could have reincarnated from this nun?
You're not the first person to tell me that or ask me that.
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
know.
I'm getting a real sense of connection there.
I don't know. It's pretty weird. There's a lot of synchronicities between her life and my life. I was with my dad all the time. I was in his shop using his tools all the time. I had no interest in girling things as a kid. I used to work in a metal shop before I got my current retail job. Always been non-traditional. When I was 3 years old, I asked my mom when I turned into a girl.
Oh my
um,
God, I love that.
I was
That
like,
is
wait,
so great.
I'm a girl this time? You know, like I was like, this is a joke, right? So
Oh man, that's awesome.
so, but you're actually the third person that has seriously asked me that question, and it's too weird for me to think about, but I've been thinking about it.
Well, if you just trace it and think about really, and we were talking about this earlier with serendipity, and this is where my synchronistic, goddess lives, and these kinds of things. You didn't have any connection to bricks before this. They kind of come on in this magical way, and then you go down this path and it leads you to this nun, and then it's tied into your dreams. It's tied into
I
this
know.
like journey and quest, and now a book is wanting to come forth. There seems to be, if you were not her, there's some sort of energetic time slip that you are her at the same time, whether that takes us out of that she was in the past, like you're contemporarily her on a parallel timeline.
Yeah, and the way I feel when I'm inside the Providence Academy too is kind of telling. I got up there, like I said, on the third floor, and there was a particular window, and I just wanted to sit in front of that window and just never leave.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I just get such a sense of it. And that's not always a common thing for me. It's just, it really is there. And then, like I just said, like all this stuff is just, it's crazy synchronicity that would find you back here. And wanting to tell this story is part of, I mean, pardon me here, but it's almost like a healing. Like there's more that needs to come out with her story. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and
It's
also
incomplete.
if
I get the sense it's incomplete.
and also though, because of it and because of the possibilities that she is you and you are her, there is going to be a simultaneous uh some sort of interesting awakening or healing that could take for it could come forward.
Well, if it does, I'll be sure to call you first.
Yeah, well, I hope it's over a cocktail.
It could be a initiation of sorts too.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't surprise me. Going back to kind of how I got really active on Twitter was because of Hellier, and I really feel Hellier was an initiation. It wouldn't surprise me that this is an initiation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is that greater understanding of initiatory stuff that I'm always trying to get at anyway. Initiations do not have to be in ordered structures and all this. These are like, this is like the real deal. Like you coming in life and your early origin story here that gives you this whole natural witchy vibe, this whole natural witch thing, which I think, of course, they're born and not made,
Right.
like you. And I don't know that you like you is in belief, but like you are a natural witch, clearly. So yeah, this is amazing. When so if we wind back a bit to precognitive stuff,
Yeah.
what kind of other dreams have you had? That is there a sense when you have a dream that becomes a precog dream eventually? Uh, so you have to just kind of go on the past history of them. Is there a feeling to precog dreams that they just feel different? There's something different about those dreams, and they may be or may present a future causality.
Well, I recently, in the last couple of months, had one sort of come to fruition, which was one of those sort of grenades. About, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Anyway, I was at one of those hippie metaphysical whatever events, which, you know, I end up half liking and half hating. I'm one of those, right? So I go and I sort of
Yeah, yeah.
I sort of hate attend those events, right? And there was this dude and he was selling some organite. And I had never, you know, I got to talking to him, whatever, and hadn't, you know, bought a piece of organite off of him, which did absolutely nothing for me, by the way. And but
I've
whatever, he was
got
a
to
nice
say
guy.
the same. Oh my God.
Nothing.
Okay.
I was like, oh, it's resin. It looks like a piece of vomit. I kind of like the way it looks, but it doesn't do crap. Whatever, it's cool.
That's a whole sidetrack, but girl, I'm with you.
But anyway, you know, I'm just talking to everybody, right? So I'm talking to this guy and tells me, oh yeah, just hang on a few minutes. My wife's a psychic. She would love to meet you because I could tell that, you know, every other psychic loves to tell me you're psychic, you're intuitive, and I'm like, I don't know what I am. It's, you know, I don't call myself anything. He's like, you have to meet my wife. She'll be right back. So she came back and she was like, "Oh, you know, oh, I'm so excited to meet you." And she started telling me, she's like, "Can I just do a quick reading for you? I just want to tell you some things." I was like, "Yeah, whatever, you know, whatever." And she started off really strange right away. She's like, "Oh, you have a pet dragon on the astral." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's not, you know what I mean?" So she went super weird right out the gate, right? And she's like, "And you're going to make a career change at some point in your future." And I'm like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, you're going to."
Did we lose Sarah?
We lost her audio, that's for sure.
Sarah, we cannot hear you. Right when you get to the juicy stuff.
I bet you $10 that her Zoom crashed or some shit like that.
We'll see her there.
Yeah, it's residual energy. She'll drop out and come back.
Is there a way to get a hold of her?
Twitter?
Yes, of course.
Yo, bitch, what's up?
Sarah, if you can hear us, you've dropped out and right at the juicy part of the story.
Yep,
Yes,
there
there we go. So she'll be coming back shortly. Who's in the chat?
we got a full house there.
Oh, excellent.
Not really.
Hello, chat. Jerry's manning it, so as usual. Thank you, Jerry.
Oh, Amanda's here, and
Yes, Amanda.
your boy Michael Decon,
Oh, kisses to Michael.
and then a bunch of Sarah's friends.
Did Michael Watcher show up?
No, bastard.
Oh,
wait, yeah. That is
Michael Watcher. Yeah, he said he was going to show up. Hey, baby.
Is that Watcher Michael?
Yeah, it's our Watcher. That
Okay.
been on all the hives and all that.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
And Jet Petty's here, and
Oh, yay, Jeff. These are goodies.
Kay has feelings. Andrea Murphy. Rivers just showed up. Hey, Rivers.
Oh, yes. Hello, Rivers.
What else did I miss here? Janet Borkowski. Hello.
I'm not sure if I know who that is.
It's a friend of Sarah's. Welcome.
Oh, Sarah brought her crew. That's excellent. Welcome to Sarah's friend.
Internet crashed, she said.
Of course. Okay, so on that note, I want to add here that because Sarah lives in the same area, general area as I do, and the internet has been crazy.
Yeah, mine too.
Absolutely. Website. Yours too, Jer?
Oh yeah. I fully expected it. I called it last week because everybody's working from home right now.
Yeah, yes, it's a bandwidth thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it has been crazy. I mean, even like eBay and Twitter, although I want to say this too. I've noticed I have this app that tells you who unfollows you and all this stuff and follows you. I have seen, I think in the last 2 days or something, 12 accounts get deleted. Why? Because when you go there,
they're Russian bots.
Why are they? No, these are people. People I know.
You know, those kind of apps are literally spyware.
I'm sure they are, and I don't care. On my Twitter, I just don't care. So the followers app, like Jerry, I expect that from Twitter, and I'm not on Facebook. I expect that from social media.
You should expect it from the internet.
I expect it. I do expect it, sadly. But it just interests me to see that I go to these pages and it says Twitter has, you know, shut them down, basically is what it says. And so, I'm wondering if that's part of this new algorithmic overhaul.
Yeah. Yeah, Twitter, or not Twitter, YouTube put out an announcement this week that they're going to people are going to be working from home, so they'll have less staff to do video reviews. So they're going to let their algorithm go wild.
Oh, no.
And they put a disclaimer out that was like, more than the usual amount of videos will get banned for no reason.
I think you sent that to me. Yeah, that's terrible. It's terrible. I think that must be what's going on Twitter as well, because I actually reached over the 1,000 mark, and then it went immediately down, many, and I'm like, wait, I just made 1,000 people. Those are hard earned. Most of them are not bought, and yeah, I just thought it was funny, which is what led me to moving in. So, Jer, have you had some interesting dreams recently?
Oh, yeah.
Give us one, baby.
I'm trying to think of one.
I know you have, especially since you came back from the dead.
Well, yeah, because I quit smoking weed too.
Yeah.
Lots of dreams that would, have a dream. I'll wake up and piss or whatever, and I'll come back to bed, and it will continue.
Mm-hmm.
That's been happening a lot. Lots of I can't remember any right now, but I'll think about it. It'll come back to me.
It's been enjoyable to see you posting a few in the Discord channel.
Well, I remember them now. Yeah, Sarah's back now.
Sarah, you're back. She's got to get hooked up.
Hey, yo. Oh, my God. I don't know what just happened.
So on this show, sometimes with the three of us, if you get too excited, like the energy overrides the internet signal. And
yeah, we had to reboot the whole server, man. I don't even know what.
Oh, my God.
It's like, ah!
It happens. It happens.
I have no idea what the hell I was saying, my dude. You gotta line back.
It's hilarious. So we were talking about the sense of precognitive dreams. If there was if you could tell, because you don't know it's going to play out as a precog dream.
Right. Oh, yeah. We're talking
and
about
just as it got juicy, you went black.
Okay.
So just keep it toned down.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So
you psychic energy witch.
So basically, somebody told me I was going to work at an apothecary. Did I get that far? How far did I get?
No.
Okay. I knew we were talking about the organite, right? Well, his wife came out, the psychic came out. Did we get that far?
And your dragon.
Yeah, okay. So she's getting really weird and telling me all this stuff like I have a dragon and I was a puma in my past life. And I mean, she just went full weird. And now, I rolled with it. I don't care. But I was like, thanks. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, oh, and you're going to make a career change. You're going to work in an apothecary. You're going to help the elderly, and I should be helping the elderly and kids. And I'm an office slave, right? I'm like, what the hell am I going to go? Okay, whatever. And I was, nice to meet you. Have a nice life, whatever. Haven't thought about that in years until I went for a job interview at my current job, which happens to be a medically licensed cannabis dispensary that has a back wall with doors that look exactly like a freaking apothecary.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, I walked in there for my interview and I already knew I had the job. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is it. Okay, cool. I'm home.
Oh, I love that so much. See, this is what's so juicy and rewarding about those. And every time one of these experiences happens, it creates a new pathway. It creates a new, validation is a very powerful force in the brain, nothing else. And it opens up the psychic gates in a bigger way each time. So that's significant. And and you're a lifelong precog, so
yeah, I guess so. It's pretty weird. I don't know any other way to be. You know what I mean? It's like when people say, "What's it like to be, a woman. I don't know what's it like not to be a woman. I don't.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's what's always so funny is our normal. That's why I keep saying about like Masons. Like everyone and all of everyone I knew in the Midwest, it seemed like everyone was in the Masons or a Shriner or something. It was like, no, come on. It's
you
no big
know,
deal.
yeah, and those of us, that do have, precognitive abilities or anything. I mean, honestly, we're not special. We're just paying attention. Anybody can do
Yes.
this. Anybody.
That's what I constantly say, that this is not special. It is, what's special is allowing yourself to be open.
Yeah, just pay attention to the patterns.
Mm-hmm. Do you have, so on that, walk us through some of how you pattern recognize, because this is how you got onto the whole hidden brick thing. This is what tied you into this nun and is moving your life forward in that direction as well. How do you stay open and know what is something that's shiny to you that says pay attention?
Name repetition and number repetition always. If I'm seeing the same names, first name, last name, or the same number sequences, that's usually an indication that I should probably be paying attention to see what's happening.
And then, so with that kind of recognition of these symbols, these things in the outer world, how often does this stuff permeate? And I mean, we've already gotten a sense of this, but how often does it permeate into your other layer of consciousness? Starting with dreams.
I think it can't help but not do that. I think about this stuff and notice this stuff all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because, I was a social science major in college or whatever, but I've always been interested in people and behavior and patterns and things like that. So, and especially being the new kid all the time, you know how it is when you move. You always are very carefully observing the
Mm-hmm.
environment of which you're dropped into as just a sort of a survival mechanism.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the gifts of being, kind of a travel is, yeah, we get it. It's a whole different perspective on the world around us. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So in all this, what is your take on others? So in the dreamscape, others that aren't necessarily ghosts or and then I separate the dead from ghosts. Like for some reason, the dead seem to me like real sentient beings,
Hmm.
and ghosts seem to me like uh reverberations.
Like residual. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on other beings, other forces that you encounter? I know you do because you encountered the dead, but say some that may not be so humanoid. Do you encounter stuff like that?
I have never, no, I've never seen like an elf or an alien, or I went through a really weird 2 weeks where we had this customer that was really interesting at work, and I swore to God he was a fae, but it turned out he was just a really weird dude. But I'm always looking for for interesting things, but I've never seen like a cryptid or.
So wait, that's provocative. So why at first did you think he was a fae, and then how did it turn
Oh
out
no,
that he
no.
was just a dude?
Well, he came in. I was working at a powder coating shop. Powder coating is basically essentially fancy plastic instead of paint that you slap all over the top of bare metal. He didn't. So he came in with this bell that he had supposedly welded, and it was in the back of the truck. He wanted it powder coated, and he didn't touch it. Like, I unloaded it, which wasn't a big deal. I unloaded people all the time, but I unloaded it. When I asked him what color he wanted, he told me he didn't care, which was odd. And when I told him, the standard turn was a week, he said, "Oh, no, 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 that one, I have to pass." Oh, well, that's okay. And I remember it was for a holiday, and I said, "Is it a holiday?" And he said, "No, it's a gift from my wife." And I remember thinking, well, if it's a gift for your wife and you don't care what color it is, you know what I mean? Like it just didn't even make sense. And he was sort of a small man, and he was disheveled, and just sort of the way that he acted was very, very strange. And the fact that he just was super quirky about the bell, and it was urgent. And I'd been, reading a lot about Faye recently, and again, paying attention to synchronicities. I was like, he even had a very strange name, which I am not going to say there, but The name even sounded fake. It was very strange. And when he came back the next day to get his very urgently powder coated bell, I swear to you, he was a foot taller. And then he could touch the bell because it had plastic over it.
Oh wow. How did you turn from that?
Wait. Was it an iron bell?
Steel.
It was iron.
Steel's different than the iron.
That's the same base metal.
Yeah, but there's something. Yeah, maybe I don't know.
It was just, yeah, it was very odd, and it unfolded, and then it was just very strange and odd. But it turns out, he ended up being a real guy, and in the long run, but it was still very strange and unsettling, and I felt kind of crazy for a couple of days.
He could be a djinn.
That was a theory that was going around at the time. It's interesting. And he paid with cash. It's interesting also.
Especially in these times.
Djinn don't have credit cards.
Right?
Well, one of the things I came in with was this ability to. Now, my mother had Sac Fox in her. It's basically kind of part of the Sioux tribe, Sioux Nation, in the Midwest, and so she had her lens of what she called this. But I have always seen people for like animals, and that show Grimm that was filmed out here did a good job for that, because that's how I've always encountered. I'm not literal like that,
right?
But in essence, I look at people and I swear their DNA splice. I see mouse people and I see dog people and I see strangeness. And my mama always just said, "Well, you're seeing their totem, right?" And I pulled up there. That's fine. Whatever you want to call it, I still see it. And so I'm wondering, though, on some level, if you just didn't pick up on that energy, and so maybe he's just a dude, but maybe he does have some of that in him. Or as Jerry just presented, that hypothesis. And there's always this like possession aspect too, where there's walk.
Yeah, it was very strange, to say the least.
Well, it's interesting coming from you. You know what I'm saying? If it weren't coming from you, then I would be like, okay. But the fact that you experienced it like that at first just makes me go, I think do that. Even though you think he's just a dude now.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
And on that though, what do you think about all this other stuff that's possible in these worlds? So, and this can bring in all of that, including the ET stuff.
I think it's
Sasquatch, all of it.
I think it's all related. I think the phenomenon is all one thing, and if you play with it, it will play back. And sometimes it shows us different lenses, and maybe it shows us certain lenses that we can handle better than others. I'm not sure.
I like that, and I like the idea that it can play back. There's that seems interesting. You definitely seem like the open-minded type that would be. You're not closed off, or if you had an experience, would you would be someone that could have an experience because you're not closed off.
Well, I would hope so. I'd like to think so.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, but I mean, there are some people who are just like, hell no, none of this exists, and that's not at all the stance I get from you. So
I pretty much think none of it could exist, or all of it could exist, and we don't really know.
That's the open table. That's the open mind. Is that it could or it couldn't. It just until you experience it, so it's not like closed off. What are your thoughts on? And we've already touched on this in a big way with your sacred dead. On that, and then also with the reincarnation factor of this kind of nun overlay with you, where do you stand in internal space, a heart space, on the idea of of not of being a soul, being a sentient being that possibly, what's death?
Just a transformation, just a different lens, maybe. I don't think some, I don't see any reason that it could be considered any different than life, other than, just on a different level. I don't see why. Obviously, it plays with different rules, but I don't think it's something that should be feared necessarily. I mean, of course, we grieve when we lose people that we care about, but I don't think that your consciousness ends when your body wears. I think we're all either recycled back into the great whatever to come back and learn it all over again. I'm not sure. That's my working.
Well, I really believe nobody's sure. Even people who have had death experiences and come back. I still, you know, I think to have a full conviction is lovely. That's great, and it sounds reassuring for people. But I still keep it open. Like
Absolutely.
it could be like a big Pac-Man that eats us, and that's it. Poof, baby, you're gone. And so, uh, and then I want, just because you're friends with Jerry and all this, I just have to get your idea on this. What do you
Yeah.
think space is?
Space as far as tangible space, or space as far as like
Outer space.
planets and okay. Yeah, so you have to do inner space or outer space.
Yeah. Oh, see, Sarah, you're so smart. True. I mean outer space.
Well, I know Jerry's theory, so I won't spoil it for everybody else. But I don't know. I'm a big part of Team Saturn. Shout out to Team Saturn who's listening. When everything goes retrograde, that's when things tend to go right for us, right? So that's kind of our slogan is Saturn. Hell, just like dig in and turn it around. If I get to go out in space, that's the first place I'm going is freaking Saturn, man. Headed there.
And you must be familiar with like that, the ring makers and all that.
Possibly.
Of
Tell me
Saturn.
more. Oh, yeah. I'm like, we talked about Masons. We've talked about a lot of stuff tonight.
No. There was this famous NASA scientist who wrote a book called The Ringmakers of Saturn. I cannot remember his name right now, but claims the rings were manufactured by an alien technology.
Mm-hmm. What are these rings supposed to be doing?
Who knows?
He just said they made them.
I don't know.
Why.
I didn't read the book. Readings for Losers.
And he's Jerry.
Well, you don't get to come to Saturn with us then.
Exactly.
Too bad. You guess you're stuck here.
You're not going in a rocket, that's for sure.
That's true. Elon Musk is too busy having raves in his cave or whatever.
Oh, he's all hooked up to Neuralink.
He's CIA.
God.
Come on.
That
guy's name is
Saturn.
Norman Berggren.
Norman Berggren. And his theories are very, very interesting. I mean, of course, I stress theory because we don't know, but they're very interesting. They're actually quite juicy. Yeah, just check out one of his interviews. It's juicy. I'm sure there's, I'm sure someone in the chat probably knows.
Yeah, and the book's out of print and it's on Amazon for like $200.
Oh my God, jeez.
Typical. I'll just ask John Tenney if he's got one. He'll have 3 copies.
We love John.
Probably.
That John Tenney's Nox Mente interview is one of the all-time greats.
He is one of the all-time greats. I had to just give Tenney a shout out at least once.
Yeah, Tenney's amazing. Good people. We love Tenney. So yes. So that whole death thing, I'm perplexed by it. So when you encounter, and the reason why I wanted to kind of go there a little bit earlier with you was because you get into, and you have since you were little, into dealing with haunted places and the haunted aspect of things. And so this is where I wanted to kind of get your ideas on death and then overlay that into you as someone that investigates, in a way, haunted places.
Okay.
So that's where I'm trying to go right now.
I'm not really sure how to answer that.
So when you encounter something that's haunted, how do you experience it? Is it feeling? Do you see something? How do you know when something's haunted?
Oh, definitely feel it in my body first, like a barometer. Everybody talks about the goosebumps on the back of your neck or whatever. Definitely just the energy starts to feel different. clairaudience a little bit sometimes if things get really weird, you know. I'll maybe hear things some people don't necessarily hear. I've had that happen at a couple of graveyards. I had that happen in Las Vegas. I had that happen when I was looking for my husband's grandfather recently died, and we'd gone up to the big mausoleum and I had no idea where we were going. He headed one direction and I just sort of stood there for like 3 seconds, and then just a voice said, "Over here." And I just went over there and I was like, "Here he is." And they just both started laughing because they're used to my spooky crap.
They're used to it, but they must trust it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, have you encountered anything that was actually not friendly on the scary end?
I haven't seen anything, but I've definitely, had to kick stuff out of my house before. Stickers, attachments, whatever, just, let me sleep. We also leave our apartment is across the street from a hospital, which doesn't really help sometimes, hence the brick
Oh
dust.
yeah, yes, the entities and all that. The hospitals
Yeah.
are so creepy.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like, when you're sensitive at all, they kind of like see the blue light come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree.
It's totally
Agree.
true.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jerry, with your experience of living in one recently, oof,
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep. I was awake like 24/7.
Sarah was one of the wonderful people posting pictures of her workings to get you better, by the way.
She told me. I thanked her.
Yeah,
I
it's all
admitted
in
it.
the feed.
I
Yeah,
admitted it.
it was just so wonderful to see. I was so grateful for all of that. I know Jerry is, but
Yeah, I don't really witch without permission, except in emergency circumstances. So I figured Jerry would be cool with it. So good to know that all was well.
you came to bat for real big time, and you were sharing photos. And so it was, a couple, you were out there, you were really doing the work.
Well, the thing with the photo sharing too is I know some people sort of have, the whole rule is, you make a sigil and you hide it. Don't show anybody. Don't think about, you know what I mean? What I've sort of found, this again goes back to Team Saturn. We're kind of the opposite. The more we tweet it out or just, talk about it or post just a 3-second video or tweet each other stuff, that's when stuff happens.
Yeah, you charge it from the energy of the viewers.
Right.
As long as you
Yes.
make it with that intention, it will work that way.
Yes. Yeah, and that's usually a distinction I find myself having to make with people. So it's like, know what you're doing. It's the people that don't know what they're doing, Sarah. Where they're like, oh, here's, they're doing the secret working, and they won't tell you what it's for, but then there's the photograph and there's the working altar, and it's like, well, now it's not a secret. This was healing Jerry. And
Yeah.
you're like, I'm at work here doing this. And so other people got to see it and focus on it and add to it.
That was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and have a Jerry.
Hell yeah.
We
For
Oh,
better
yeah.
or worse.
Yes. Oh Lord, don't get me started. And, no, we never want to lose Jerry.
Never. Oh. Scared the
So-
crap out of us though, dude. Knock it
It
off.
was.
I
terrible.
couldn't help it. It wasn't like something I knew. I got pneumonia.
Ugh, excuse
Jerry
me.
I got
got
the
the corona.
coronavirus.
Right? You're patient zero.
From all
He
that
was ahead of
Chinese
the
food I
curve.
was making.
Oh no.
You were ahead of the curve there.
Well, I did buy a ton of Chinese like
Yeah, right. Truly did.
like
You
about,
always.
well, I started right before I got sick.
I do too.com. I like Christmas.
Oh, I meant like Amazon foodstuffs.
Oh.
Yeah, I do too. I order in a lot. What I also like going to the Chinese market. I like
Yes, me
different
too.
market.
Me too.
I love the
So,
Chinese markets. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
me
Yeah.
too. I've always been in love with all that. I love Chinatowns and all that.
Yep.
My love
Same.
for China is old.
Same girl,
My
same.
love for
Just not the
China's
political
old.
stuff. They can keep
Right.
that. The people
Fucking
and that
commies.
old culture. Oh,
Well, like ours are any better. Holy crap.
We don't have commies, okay?
No, we just have a freaking turd in the White House.
No,
Give me a
don't.
break. That's so much
Not
better.
no politics.
This is Nox Mente, girl.
Sorry. You started it talking about China.
Jerry started it with his Chinese food. See, here we are saying
Now
we
all the
can't
bots are
talk.
going to come to me on Twitter. All the bots. Like,
Right. But here we are
socialist,
self-censoring too.
socialist witch. Whatever.
So, all right, as we wind kind of to this area where we put the shout out to the audience for questions, and I hope you've brought so much content here. I hope there's some good questions out
Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. I know we don't have a line open. I really want people to start calling us. Wouldn't that be fun?
Cool. Yeah.
It would. So I wanted to ask this question since you are a working witch. Do you use dreams in your practice at all?
Sometimes I will when I'm going to bed. If I'm wanting answers for something, I'll ask for answers in my dreams or clarity in my dreams or guidance in my dreams. Yes.
How often do you so is this like the synchronistic thing where you'll go have a dream and then you just keep your eye out for what shines?
Sometimes, or sometimes I'll just get a direct answer in symbols in the dreams is more frequent.
And with this, has there been so I know you had the reoccurring Big Bird dream, which are hilarious. I still Big Bird should scare us all.
Right?
And if he were blue, might be something there. Ha
Oh
ha.
God.
It's the joke for everyone that knows the joke about the bluebird. Anyway, so when you get answers, so you'll seed in the dream and then you kind of look for the answers, or the answers come. Will they come in a dream, or do you start seeing them synchronistically in the outer world?
It can happen both ways. I would say it's more synchronicities lately. I have just been on this synchronicity kick. And again, I sounds like a broken record, but I swear to God, it was hellier.
Hellier was amazing. You know, I'm such a fan. I love them. I love what they did. I think it's elegantly done and real. It's totally real. You know, like the way they do it. It wasn't like this Hollywood crap that's out there.
It took my personal, magic work and everything else from like 1 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
Just by the initiation, as we're all called.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about how that manifested in your life?
The job specifically, I was miserable at my last job, and I did a working where I took out a piece of parchment and I listed 5 things that I wanted from a new job. I tied it with a piece of devil's root that one of my buddies, Matt, sent me with the green ribbon, and I carried that around in my pocket for about 2 weeks until I landed the job. I've had good luck that had a friend that had a husband that had some medical problems that I witched pretty hard too. And I feel like that had some really good results because we sort of put that out on Twitter too. I've got a couple of other friends that have, had synchronistic things happen to them. Just because we're all like sort of, while the world seems like it's going to hell, a lot of us are actually kind of on an upswing, which is odd. That's why we're like kind of Team Saturn. We're all kind of going on the up a little bit. It's like a circle, and I feel like
It's a spiral, not a circle.
Somehow, there you go. But all of us, being into Hellier and watching it at the same time and chatting about it and bonding so hard about it. I mean, these are strong friendships. Like these are my people now. I've never, I've been a Hannibal fan and I was a Twin Peaks fan before that. Like I never connected with people like I have on this level. This was something different. It's
interesting how there's a rift there. You've got the people who love Hellier and the people who hate it. You don't really get people who are like, it's okay.
It speaks to you or it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Have you met Dana or Greg?
Not yet. Oh. I'm a Magic of the Month member and have been for quite some time. So I've got plenty of opportunities to act with them on a pretty direct basis, which is really gracious of them to do with their fans, but I haven't had an opportunity to meet them yet.
Yeah, they're great. I met them a couple of years back at CryptidCon. And Greg's been on the show.
I have friends that have met them and said, yeah, awesome. My friends reported back that they're just as genuine as they are.
Absolutely.
Online.
100%. And hopefully if you come out to Michigan Paracon, get to meet them there.
I'm telling you, it's bucket list. It's bucket list. I'm trying.
If
We'll
it's
set
still
up.
on.
Yeah,
When-
if it's still on.
Right, exactly.
We'll s-
when is it, Jer?
I don't know, but we'll set up a fucking GoFundMe to get you out there. So
When,
it's
when
in
is it
August,
actually set?
August
It's in-
28th and 9th.
August,
I think.
yeah. Yeah.
Let's compare.
Late August.
August 27th through 29th in Sault Ste. Marie.
There's a lot of people out in the Michigan area that I have a hug list. I have a 2020 hug list.
There's
They
yeah,
know
there
they're
are
on the list.
tons of people out there in that. That's where I come from, and so there's definitely a huge amount. There's a huge witch community there. Selena Fox is right there,
Mm.
and yeah, the Midwest has a whole bunch of folkish, witchy people. I think a lot of people think it's all like Bible Belt ish up north, and it's not. It certainly has that flavor, but I've never been I wasn't raised a Christian, so I got to see the witchy side. I've always been on the witchy side, and there are some amazing, amazing, amazing witchery up there, and especially with the Great Lake, the power those Great Lakes have. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
I definitely. I was in Milwaukee not a few years back and spent some time out there and definitely got some time out on the lake.
Wisconsin is one of my favorite states. I love it so much. And I do in the Midwest, that's the state I miss.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's my favorite. And so, yeah, like if I were to ever live back in the Midwest, it would be in Wisconsin.
I really liked, believe it or not, Des Moines, Iowa when I was there. Des Moines has some weirdness to it.
When were you there? That's where I was born.
Oh, really? That would have been about 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't been there. I mean, I was
Yeah.
back there for a funeral, but my core people are the Amy Putney Koenig, and I mean, I just know them from there, so
It's cool.
we
Yeah,
were
I fell in
tied
love with
in.
that store Ray Gun there. I spent like, $300 at Ray Gun on stupid t-shirts.
Oh yeah, there's some great stories in there.
Do you remember Nish? Do you remember Bizarre Bazaar in Old Town?
Yes, Jer.
That's
in Chicago?
Yeah, in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I got a question.
Yeah.
So I think it was Oswald asked, "Who's your favorite or best occultist in Portland?"
I have no idea. I don't really hang out with other witches, to be honest.
Just the Team Saturn.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a solitary practitioner. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, like I said, I've never been part of a coven. I've never, I've gone to a few events and just sort of bailed out and felt uncomfortable. Never really found. It always seemed so forced and so. It sounds shitty, but I call it like witchy poo dress up.
Oh yeah, I rant about that all the time.
Like
Sarah.
I ain't interested, man. Like
the add water and stir hot topic witches.
Yeah, like I don't care. I don't care. Just and I'm doing some. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm doing some exciting things online with some people. So I am starting to do group magical work with my friends for the first time ever. So that's definitely new for me.
That's what's so great about the internet. We find our tribe, and because we're scattered, our own tribe. And yeah, I don't do anything here in this area, Sarah. Montana Jordan is one of my best friends, and so she comes out here, and then my friend Melanie Poe, and so that's kind of my thing. Of course, there's Eric Arnis here. There's some great people. There's some great magical community here.
Yeah.
But I just don't do the group stuff myself after having not having the same reason you were saying.
Yeah.
The Grimerica Discord, they're doing all kinds of intention work in different channels together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how if we congregate energy, we know this, how powerful energy is when we start congregating it, and especially through a vehicle, a medium such as the internet, the ether waves. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
seriously, are getting tied down into our little sleeves or, bodies, whatever you want to call them, is so 20th century.
So I got another question here. Someone wanted to know if you believe in red string theory, which I have no idea what that is.
Red string theory. I don't know if I believe in that either. I guess I need some more information.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
We need some info on that, Jer.
They're stumping me, man. Look at this. I told them, come heckle me, and they're doing it.
Yeah, it's all your friends. So.
I know. No one else gonna listen to this. No.
It's Team Sarah out there.
I think let's see, who was it? Andrea Murray.
Oh, Andrea.
Yeah.
That's my girl. That's my sister witch.
I think she might be talking about the red thread of destiny. Which is an invisible red thread that connects those who are meant to be together.
Oh, I like it.
I like that too. And it sounds,
if I wasn't a coven, Andrea would be in my coven. So
she's in your digital coven.
Yes. I love it when we have witches on. It's so great.
Yeah, so great.
Yeah, we're all half crazy. Deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for real. It is the bigger tribe of the weird with the Y. WYRD, baby.
Oh, I thought that meant wired.
Well, in our case too, but
weird with the Y. It's old school. So is that all the questions? Come on, Team Andrea.
So far.
What about our team? The bigger team. No questions.
Nobody's here tonight.
Oswald doesn't have a question.
Those were his questions.
Bored.
No, nobody was bored.
We really do not get a lot of questions on here. It's
That's
amazing. Cool. Yeah, there have been shows where we had no questions. So
yeah, generally we ask them all before.
Yes, that's the feedback is that we've already covered it.
Nice. Well, that means you're doing a good job.
We try.
So what?
Okay, Oswald wants to know what you think about regular string theory.
About what? I don't have the answers.
Do you know what string theory is? Like M theory?
It's physics, yeah.
Top level stuff, but I'm not a physicist.
I know, but what do you think about it?
It could be possible, yeah.
There you go, Oswald.
Anything is possible.
Absolutely.
Oswald, we know this.
This could all be an entire simulation.
It totally is.
None of this is real.
Well, it's real, but
you think that, Sarah?
Sometimes, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm always questioning whether we're alive.
And then I get mad at myself, and I'm like, "Dang it! You couldn't think of something else better. Come on."
I know, right? Well, we're dealing with the gravity of everyone else's thoughts.
Gravity's just a theory.
Yeah, but it's a theory holding us down to this collective idea that's happening.
Nope, that's magnetism, but whatever.
Oh, okay. Right.
I'm kidding.
There we go. Or is it mesmerism?
Both.
We're
mesmerized by scientism.
She blinded me with science.
Yes, so Suzanne, you're right. Everything is demons.
That's Jerry's tagline. That actually should
calm down, Zach Baggins.
I need to make
should be a t-shirt. Jerry.
Speaking of Zach Baggins, I swear.
Sorry.
That's how Montana feels.
Dude, his guns are so hot. No, seriously though.
Sorry.
I honestly think that guy is so haunted himself, so possessed, that he brings all that shit with him when they go to investigate. And that's why they always have, if they're real, results.
Probably. Charlatan, I know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He thinks he's P.T. Barnum brought back to life. Like, no.
Yeah, sure.
I don't watch any of that.
Either.
He does seem like, he's like in that same realm for me as, and I'm going to say it because it's my show too.
That's right, baby.
Corey Good. He's in that same realm. I'm sorry to people that love the good, but I can't buy it. Yeah.
Which reminds me, I was supposed to go ghost hunting this Thursday with Josh Kutchin.
Kutchin!
Yeah.
What
I
happened?
love
Oh, that's right. We are in
Josh.
lockdown.
We're on lockdown here, so
We
like,
are
what happened?
still waiting for Josh Kutchin to come back to Twitter. We are still waiting.
he's never coming back.
I know. God.
No, it's not.
Love
It's
Josh.
great. I applaud him for it.
Kuchin's fantastic. Oh,
He's
He's
like,
who I talked to about the Fae guy
yeah.
every day.
really?
Yeah.
He was the one I'm like, Josh, what the hell is going on here?
Oh, wow.
He knows the full story.
I got another question here from Oswald. What's the best witch hex to deal with COVID-19?
The isolation hex.
Yeah. The hermit card.
Yep. Yeah. Power reversed. I don't know.
And red dust.
Yeah. Don't breathe it in though.
Pass. You mean me no good. You shall not pass.
In all honesty, though, like not to sound super hippie, but I think keeping a positive attitude will help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Fear is an immunosuppressant. We all know that. And the mind. Fear is the mind killer.
One of the things that I will say is stabilized liquid oxygen is an amazing thing for your body, and it is something I suggest people look into, especially as things tie into 5G with this and the drop dead aspect. Oxygenating yourself that way is a very potent. It's a tool to be used.
Yeah, and it can help with cancer.
It's amazing all around. I've used it for years, and I just got more making sure. And I hadn't used it in a long time. I forgot how good I feel on it. It's just revitalized you. But there's a specific trail of why it's good in this context, and I just let people do their own research. However, how do people get a hold of you? It'll all be in the show notes anyway.
Wait, I got more questions.
Oh my God, you're getting the questions now, Sarah.
So if you could only have one tool, what would it be?
Tool as far as like which tool, or as far as like a hammer?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna say a hammer.
Stealer's choice.
A hammer, you can smash up bricks and make brick dust, or crack somebody in the head if they mess with you, or fix something if it breaks.
All right. You could rehandle it too if the handle breaks.
Exactly. You could whittle it down to a weapon, step a vampire. You could do anything.
Yes, vampires.
Now we're thinking.
All right. I'll call it quits on questions. So,
all right.
So, Sarah, that was 2 hours. Didn't that go quickly?
Indeed, it did, especially since, we had technical problems in the middle.
It was just a blip. I will say, though,
that's the witchy power.
On the analytics, there's one part of the show which, like, all the viewers dropped off. I wonder what happened there for like 10 minutes.
Was it when Sarah dropped off?
No.
Interesting.
It's very, very strange. Yeah, so I've got all your links in
perfect
in the show notes, except for Instagram.
Come yell at me on Twitter, guys.
Oh, wait, Oswald's got more questions. When the Twitter witches will purge this realm of Instagram Wiccans?
I actually just recently joined Instagram. It's actually Dana Newkirk's fault because she was posting cat photos. She's like, I have cat photos on my Instagram. I'm like, fine.
Wait, what's Instagram?
I enjoy Instagram.
What is it?
I don't have Facebook, but I enjoy Instagram.
I'm barely on Insta.
So do tell people your Twitter handle and all that so they can find you.
Yeah.
And your
Twitter,
blog.
Yeah. Twitter, it's macabre, MACABRE_kitty. And on my blog is weirdlifeptx.blogspot.com.
That I left off. Put that in the show notes.
See, there we go. Thank you so much, Sarah. This was so fun.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
I'm going to be checking my house for these hidden bricks.
And we're going to go have a beer after we're out of quarantine.
Yes. Let's make that a date for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks, everyone, for listening.
Jerry.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
And next week will be an obelisk. It's full moon. Ooh. Wait. Next week's a new moon. Wait, I'm confused.
Thing you're not a witch.
I know. Next week's the new moon, and we're going to have Michael Wan, the Susquehanna alchemy guy, talking about his new dealio, which is etheric pathways.
Michael is fantastic. We love him.
He's great, and he's been putting out a lot of content lately. Check out his YouTube channel. Pretty interesting. He is doing the paywall thing, which is kind of bogus, but whatever.
We're all trying to survive right now.
Hoes got to eat too.
Right. That's right. We're back to that theme. This has been a crazy.
Get your hoe cakes. Get your hoe cakes. Okay. That dude died last year. It was so sad.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
Yeah.
All right, so
really dead?
Yeah, he really is dead. The dude from Winky Dinky Dog.
Like, do we really die?
No, he went to Mason Island.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This Nox Mente has been so fun. Right. Oh, I love it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
All right.
Sarah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.